Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It is a Wednesday. It is a packed Wednesday with games from yesterday in CONCACAF, in CONMEBOL, in UEFA to talk about. We've got even some league games yesterday to talk about just to mix it up. We got more of the same today. Tons of different things to get into. We're going to kind of bounce around yesterday's results and then lead us into today. In hour number one, Mike Conti will join us at 10 o'clock to talk Atlanta United and MLS as a whole, maybe a little bit of overlap with some CONCA champions. And then we'll take some questions in the last half hour of the show. But guys, let's go back to yesterday and let's maybe go slightly chronological. Let's talk about the UEFA Champions League to start things off. Manchester City came in with vengeance and anger and fury and all of those things and blew Sporting out of the water. 5-0. Tie is over. They can walk through the second leg. Does this solidify, John, your pick as City winning the Champions League this year?
I don't know if it – I mean, see, but that's like two different sentences for me. I've always thought of them as my favorite, but – this was a match that they should have been in control of. And I know that, you look at 5-0 and it was 4-0 after, I think, 40 minutes or something like that. And you're sitting there going, yep, they made a statement. It reinforces the notion that I have about them being champions, but it didn't like completely and totally put it on a pedestal and electrify it and have it like with big signs or anything like that. This is what I think they should have done. They should have been in control in this match from the beginning. It's just that they put 5 up on the board and they can take it easy for the second leg, which will help them out in multiple competitions. It'll help them out in the Premier League and spacing things out with lineups when it comes to the Champions League in the second leg in 3 weeks.
Yeah, solidify, reinforce, kind of the same thing. I wasn't saying like they'd won the thing here. I mean, this is just, you picked them yesterday, and they showed yesterday, after you picked them, why they're right now the best team in Europe. It's on the road. I mean, sure, you can dismiss Sporting Club all you want and say the Portuguese league isn't on the same level. It's not. But to go on the road and to just thoroughly dominate a team, this is where top teams get stuck. Oh, well, you're supposed to do that.
I know.
But you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always happen. And they did it with style, in my opinion. I mean, Jarrett, like, City going in there, to me, that is a bit of a statement to not just win and win comfortably, but to win with some swagger and some beautiful goals and just an overall dominant performance. I think it absolutely reinforces, solidifies whatever, that they're the team to beat right now.
Yeah, they're the team to beat. They've been the team to beat. It's good on them to go out there and do that, though, to reinforce it. I don't think anything changes in the terms of, they're the team you're looking at if you're looking for a favorite. And they went in there and took care of business. Like, they're supposed to go in there and, God bless you, Sporting, but Manchester City's supposed to go in there and wreck your shop like that when that's what they're supposed to do. There's a lot of pressure being the Man Cities of the world, being now being the Rivers of the world in South America. Like, you're going to be expected to go in and do those sorts of things when it kind of lines up for you. And they did. Professional performance.
I kind of think that favored teams winning 5-0 is almost the 2-0 2-0's the dangerous scoreline, most dangerous scoreline in soccer, because this doesn't happen that often. You don't see teams go in on the road and win in this manner that often. I'm going to give City more credit. I think this is more than the expectation to go in. I think they did make a bit of a statement here. Biggest winning margin in an away match in the Champions League knockout phase, equals it in history. Give City their joint biggest European away victory, 5-0 at Steaua Bucharest in the playoff round of this competition in 2016-17. So it's not easy to do what they did. And sometimes Pep, gets this kind of treatment. I understand it because City is the best team and we expect it and we expect them to win, and he shows up and you expect his teams to win. But this was beyond that, I think. This was really impressive. Let's talk about the other game that I think most people were watching, especially after the first 15, 20 minutes. PSG and Real Madrid. Real Madrid defended deep a lot of times, 4-5-1. Karim Benzema played, wasn't explosive. Really good on the defensive side of the ball. I thought him dropping back and helping defend was really effective. But Madrid couldn't get anything going the other way. And that's not just because they decided to defend. Carlo Ancelotti said that the game was decided in the midfield. PSG's pressing prevented Madrid from building out of the back and doing anything getting forward. The build-up play, and we see it every time we get to this phase of competitions, and some people live on this. There's Twitter accounts about it. The building out of the back, Jarrett, there's people who are just like, oh, this is a waste of time. This is useless. Don't do it. It's scary. It's risky. But I think Madrid showed you yesterday why, if you are a possession team, if you want the ball, you have to build out of the back, because if you don't, you can't get out of your own half. You can't get on the ball. You can't launch strong counterattacks. If you do get forward, it's like 1v2 or 2v3. Building out of the back and doing it the right way and being able to do it against pressure is critical for teams who want to play with the ball. You can't always just skip the lines. Madrid showed that yesterday, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's always fun when you can skip the lines. You always want to,
always
like,
fun.
you always. Yeah, I mean, when
Not
you
always
can
fun with
successfully.
Yeah, when you can do it successfully and not. But again, it's the idea of, oh, yeah, that time we skipped the lines and played it long into somebody's run and it worked, versus the 20 times that you play it long and you don't win possession and it's coming right back down your throat.
Yeah, it's fun when you do it and it works.
Sure.
But yeah, you gotta carry the ball.
It's like flushing that pitching wedge from 100 yards. That one time that you actually put it within 5 feet, you're like, I'm the greatest.
And that's what brings you back every single time.
Well,
especially put some backspin on it, hit it like 6 feet past the hole,
Sure.
it hits and sticks and rolls back.
Sure. Most of the time you hit that shot, you're putting it into the bunker behind the green.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels good when it works. The times it works, but I mean, you got to carry the ball at some point, because somebody has to carry play. Like,
but I think
theoretically, someone has to carry play. You can't just be like lobbing grenades back and forth.
I think it's even more than that, because it's not just like you want the ball, so you got to do this. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. Like, you saw it yesterday, in my opinion, with Madrid. The only times they really looked dangerous when they got forward, outside of set pieces and stuff like that, is when you were able to get Vinicius on the run and he was able to keep his equilibrium up and actually stay on his feet and not fall down. Or get Benzema with him to be able to have somebody to combine. You couldn't get numbers forward. And that's where I think everybody skips that part of building out of the back, because it is dangerous. I mean, yes, you're playing short passes in your own half under pressure. Yes, you got to stare in the face of that dragon sometimes. But when you do it, you're not then attacking 2v3 or 2v4 or 2v5, whatever it turns into. You're getting your team further up the field, and you can actually play. If you're attacking 2v3 for the majority of the day, you're not going to have many chances. If you can build out of the back, get your team forward, get your fullbacks involved, get your midfielders involved, then you can play more. Madrid wasn't able to do that. And as great as PSG is on the ball, as hard as it was yesterday for them on the ball, because Madrid defended really well, their pressure is what Ancelotti said made the difference, because Madrid couldn't get those additional bodies forward. And PSG is a good defensive team in the back. They were able to deal with the situations the few times that the long ball worked. And PSG kept going and going. It looked like it was going to be one of those games. And so many times in these moments, it comes down to the best player on the field. And the best player on the field yesterday was Kylian Mbappe. And he showed you why everybody wants to sign him in the summer. And what a freaking goal to win this thing in stoppage time. John, I mean, it's not settled. You got to go to Madrid now. Away goals don't mean anything. So, like, you know, if PSG get the one, it doesn't have that extra little bonus like it used to.
Right.
But they're in a really good position to be able to take advantage of a Madrid team at home that's going to have to come out a little bit more and play and risk more getting forward.
Yeah, Julian Lawrence from ESPN had some really good numbers with yesterday's match, and there were a couple of them that stood out to me. 21 shots to 3 for PSG in favor of PSG in this match. 8 on target, none on target for Real Madrid. And you mentioned the pressing ability for PSG. The other number that came out for me from Julian Lawrence, 16 balls recovered in the final third. And that, to me, sends that message that the pressure that PSG had yesterday was working and created short fields and a lot of opportunities for PSG against Real Madrid. And so this is going to be a lot of thought being put into this one for Carlo Ancelotti in the next 3 weeks. And apparently the board was giving Ancelotti a lot of heat after the match for their performance. But right now, this is what you're looking at. If you're staring at PSG and these kinds of performances against these clubs to get them toward the last game in Champions League, this is that one that you sit there and it's like, all right, here's the example. We do this again. We knock out Real Madrid. We go to the final 8.
But I think what people forget about with PSG is that pressure and how important it is, because, you can look at Neymar, and who came in first game since November and added a lot. I think first time he touches the ball, he beats 3 players. You'd look at that front 3 with Messi and Mbappe and Neymar, and you're kind of mesmerized, and you're like, oh, okay, that's what they are. When they can do what they did yesterday and have those opportunities, and we'll talk about Messi in a second, force Courtois to make a number of big saves, but they put in the work on the other side of the ball, and they put in the work defensively. That's the missing element for so many teams, is you can have firepower, but you've got to be able to defend. And in this case, defend high up the field, so you can get all this additional help getting forward. Verratti, Paredes, Danilo. You can get these guys joining the attack. Hakimi's, playing as a right winger most of the time. You have to have the work, and that's so critical in today's game. If you're a possession team, it means you still have to defend a lot, and you have to do it far away from your own goal. Less risk, but you have to be effective there, because if you're not, then the opposition is building out of the back and getting those numbers forward, and then creating the overloads and creating the problems. We'll talk about Messi for a minute. His penalty wasn't great. Decent save from Courtois. Maybe gave it a little bit too much credit. Watching it yesterday live, and we were talking in the Discord about it. He didn't strike it all that well. Didn't put it quite as far into the side as he wanted to. It's a game where I kind of felt like, Lionel Messi struggled yesterday, and a lot of people were saying the same thing. But then when you look at what he actually did, again, some of this is the way the game state, the way it played out. It's in PSG's attacking half a lot of times. He had 8 shots in total. 3 were blocked, 3 off target, 2 on target to 4 saves. 5 of 7 on his dribbles. He created 4 chances, 101 touches. I think he was 3rd in the team in touches overall. He was productive. It's a bad day for him, but it's kind of like, the reaction to City winning 5-0. It's like, oh, ho-hum, that's what you're supposed to do. That's your baseline. Messi doing what he did in a normal game, if we're sitting here talking about this, we're like, man, look at everything that this guy produced in the game. And I had the same reaction as everybody else. Like, he didn't really play that well. He's just set the bar so high. And that's maybe a little bit of the PSG issue. And we've done it on this show, where it's, you look at PSG, Jarrett, and you're like, we expect them to win everything and win 5-0 every time. And if they don't, then they're a mess. And it's probably part of the conversation about Pochettino and his future. Like, he's been a disappointment. I mean, the guy's lost 1 league game. They're in the knockout round. They won their home leg against Real Madrid, one of the top contenders to win this thing. He's doing pretty good. They're doing pretty good. Maybe we set the bar a little too unrealistically high.
Yeah, it's just kind of part of the banter of it. Yeah, I mean, we run through this in every sport, and every sport has its own little things where we've set a bar so ridiculously high that it's going to be tough to hit it when it's hit. I don't know if we ever appreciate the brilliance that comes with it when it's achieved correctly. But when it's not hit, we're like, well, what happened?
They only won 2-0.
Yeah.
There's no pleasing some people, but that's okay.
It's not okay. No, it's not okay. It's real. It's realistic. I mean, it's real life now. But I don't think it's okay.
I don't think Lionel Messi's losing sleep over it personally. But.
No, Lionel Messi's not losing sleep over it. But it creates unfair conversations and I think unfair narratives when we get down some of these roads. Like, Oh, PSG is a huge disappointment. Mauricio Pochettino is a huge disappointment. Messi hadn't been doing the job. It's like, well, he really has. Maybe we expected so much more that wasn't fair to expect. And sometimes we got to, I think, take a look at that. I am about Messi yesterday. Like, I thought he didn't play well. I think look at what he
I'm
did.
sorry,
Like,
34-year-old Messi isn't doing the same things as 27-year-old Messi. Brance, my bad.
yeah,
Out for you.
yeah. I mean, and we do that to every athlete as they get older. We still have the same expectation. But I mean, even just watching the 90 minutes yesterday, I felt like, man, I expect so much from him. And I try to be realistic with expectations with players and have these conversations and look at what they're actually doing. I didn't look at the numbers yesterday at all. I didn't look at the stats. Just watching it, I had this feel of like, man, he's off today. If that's off,
Yeah.
I'll take that every single day. That's pretty ridiculous.
Meanwhile, I
Manchester.
watched Trae Young pop off the most casual 40-point
Okay.
game I've ever seen last night. So
okay,
well,
humble
but no,
brag.
to that point. No,
Okay, humble brag. No, go ahead.
no.
I know. And
To
how
that point,
great was the wonderful food in the Delta Club that you had, Jared? I know what you're setting up.
no, I'm not. But yeah, it was great. No, but we run the same thing with like so and so. Trae Young put up 40 points and 9 assists again. Okay, well that's just kind of par for the course now.
Right.
I mean, he's one of 5 players in the league with like 4 or 5 40-point games this year. And you just kind of like, you're watching the game and you look up like, oh, he has 35 points in the end of the third quarter. How did that happen? This becomes kind of what you expect. And sometimes when that happens a lot, you lose context of what's fantastic and outstanding and what's not.
Go ahead and fully brag now if you want.
There you go.
No, move on. I have limited time, so we're going to move on.
Oh, wow. All righty then. Man, look, he gets into the Delta Club
one
time.
I want to yell about Montreal, all right?
All right, we're
getting there. I don't want
to
let people know to talk to their kids about Tate Castellanos.
Okay, we're coming. Manchester United beat Brighton yesterday. Brighton had a red card. Manchester United kind of holding on towards the end to get the second goal from Bruno in the 97th minute. Ronaldo got a goal in the 51st. Lewis Dunk got that red card, needed some VAR help with that. I'm sure, John, you were watching this instead of the UEFA Champions League, weren't you?
No, I was not. I was actually,
wow.
I was listening to the, and it was on our friends over at Sirius XMFC. I was actually listening to Real Madrid and PSG while I was out and about running errands. So, it was a midweek match between Manchester United and Brighton. Sorry, Premier League. There were other games that were far more important.
Yeah, I mean, these are makeup stuff, if I remember correctly. It's why you're playing it during Champions League and all of that. So United gets the job done. I don't know how much convincing they did of people that the path is going the right way for them. But I mean, Rangnick talked about it afterwards. You got to win these games. You got to pick up these points. If they want to finish fourth, which is what they've set as their goal, they've got to win these kinds of games. They take care of their business, even though they had to sweat it towards the end. Let's get into CONCACAF Champions League before Jared attacks me. Your boy, Tati Castellanos, 2 goals, penalty, and then a blast on a loose ball inside the 18. 2 goals in the first 30 minutes. NYC could have won maybe 4 or 5-0. They looked like they were in their preseason form at times. Santiago Rodriguez got a 68th-minute red card. I jinxed him in yesterday's show. I'm sorry, Santi. But NYC takes care of business at the Estadio Nacional in Costa Rica. Brag on your boy Tati, Jared.
Parents, America, rest of the world, talk to your kids about Tati Castellanos.
What are you supposed
to tell them? If you don't, someone else will.
River Plate, Mike.
Alert them to the wonders and the blessing of a Golden Boot winner who also leads the league in foul committed.
Yeah, he committed a foul
Point them in the direction.
90 seconds in. Yeah, it was wonderful.
He got a yellow later.
Yeah, of course.
Tati is a blessing.
The more you know.
A blessing upon the world. It's Tati Castellanos is just again, he is a FIFA creative player to him to life. If you made a striker and you have a short temper, you made Tati Castellanos at some point in your life. You're going to score a lot of goals, and when you get frustrated, you're just going to start fouling people. Tati Castellanos, in a nutshell of its existence, New York City wasn't sharp, but guess what? Still got the win. And they just win, baby. They don't ask how, they ask how many.
in preseason kind of situations like this, yeah, you have to take advantage. The red card was a little unfortunate. It was borderline. It was close. Red was given on the field. VAR is not going to overturn that in our first CONCACAF VARing of the day. We have a appearance already this morning. I'm wondering what's going on, but I'm going to hit the intro. Mike Conti jumping into the show a little early. What's up?
I was trying to send you a message in the private chat, and I didn't realize that would put me in the show.
Oh, no, I put you in the show because I saw you, but hi.
Hi, but bye. I'm going to send you a note in the private chat. I'll be back with you in a bit.
Okay. You can see him waving, but you really can't. Yes. We'll see. We'll see Mike in a bit. All right. You never know what'll happen.
Anywho.
Sometimes, yeah, stuff happens. Let's see what else we got here from this game. Gideon Zelalem got the start. I think this is an interesting one. We talked about him a decent bit last year where he didn't play a ton. I thought he was all over the place at times. We saw a really good performance from him at one point in the season. Ronnie Dyla, another one of Jarrett's boys, said, I've believed in Gideon all the time. He's been here for 2 years, but he's been injured all the time. The reason we have kept him was because we know he has quality that not many players have in this league. Technically, very gifted, good awareness, good understanding of the game. I have a lot of expectation of Gideon for the future. He's on the right path to get to the level he was at before. And this was a player who was expected to break through at Arsenal and be a fixture for Arsenal. Had multiple injuries that derailed his career for quite a while. Started only one game in his first 2 years at NYC. Is he going to be the guy, John, that can help replace James Sands? Because that's the biggest miss they have from last year's title-winning team.
I think so. If you get a healthy Gideon Zelalem, I think that his experience, first and foremost, I think that will help. And I think that the faith that a Ronnie Dyla has in a player like this, I think that it speaks well for Zelalem and intent, because if you put trust in someone like this coming out of the blocks in a CONCACAF Champions League match on the road, and you see what he can give you, I think that he can contribute and be a part of that mix that can help you out. I honestly do. But I know that obviously in the back of my head, I still have the injured Gideon Zelalem in the back of my head. But I think that if you're a healthy Gideon Zelalem, the answer to me is yes.
He hasn't been healthy in so long. I think he can be. I agree with Dyla. I mean, he's got an incredible level of ability, but can he stay healthy to show it? Keaton Parks is another one who I think becomes vital. And if the two of them are your holding midfielders, with Acevedo helping out from time to time, with Morales helping out from time to time, they've got the bodies to replace James Sands. We'll see if the performances can replace it. Dyla said they had full control of the game. He's correct. Santos didn't create anything. Correct. Even with 10 men, we were really solid and disciplined. Also, the big chances we created, we should have scored a little more. Got the ball to the front three players. We created chances over and over again. All that is correct. NYC is in a really good position to go forward. Santos is in a weird spot with some players unavailable. The Costa Rican visa process has been really difficult for a number of reasons, and a lot of it is just personnel and availability to get things processed. They have a lot of foreign players who are not able to play in the Costa Rican league right now. It could have an effect on guys traveling from Santos to the match in California to play NYC. We've had that conversation a million times. They're playing it there because they're already in league play there in the weekend, so you get to save a little bit of a trip, and you couldn't play at Red Bull Arena or Yankee Stadium or Citi Field. Sure, you could have played in Hartford, but then you're traveling across the country in midweek. If you're not going to play in your home and you're not going to draw a huge number of fans for it, you might as well go and make it simpler for you from a logistical standpoint. But they might get a benefit of some Santos players not being there. All right, let's talk about the nightcap. This one got really CONCACAF-y pretty quick. Santos Laguna wins 1-0, 88th minute goal. Second leg's next week in Montreal at the Big O. VAR took away an early Montreal goal for a foul in the buildup. There was also a situation where the AR put up his flag and the referee agreed with him. It was an offside decision on a back pass by Santos Laguna. That's not in the rule book. Montreal's missing a number of people: Samuel Piet, Alistair Johnston, Mason Toy, Bjorn Janssen, Sanusi Ibrahim, Ahmed Hamdi, all unavailable for different reasons. They almost got out of there, Jarrett, with a 0-0 result, which would have put them in great shape. I still think they're in pretty good shape in the second leg against Santos Laguna.
I think they're in good shape too. It's the annoyances that you were so close to a legendary and historic win in Mexico, and if you don't know your history, Montreal and Mexico have a really painful history for Montreal.
Montreal and Santos have a history too.
That's true. It's one of those goals at the end where it just gets popped in the box and then somebody snaps their head, gets it in the back of the net. And it's really annoying to watch when you don't want it to happen because it feels sloppy at times. Like, we just threw something at the wall and made it stick. You want to be bitter about it. Hi, it's me being bitter about it. But, you had chances created. Montreal defended, I thought, pretty well, especially even as the game went on. They were able to stay in front of shots. They were closing guys out. They had a couple chances to break on the counter, and one in particular, I remember somebody, I think it was Mihailovic, got loose down the left side, had somebody in the middle, and chose to try to take it one-on-one, and ended up putting a shot, I think, right on the keeper's hands. And there's stuff that Montreal is going to look back on and absolutely wince about, I think. But yeah, they can go home and try and take care of business, drag Santos up to Montreal into the cold, and see if you can turn this around. I think it's very possible for them to do so. But it was disappointing because they got, within 3 minutes of finishing it off. Although I do give them credit because they didn't let their heads hang, because I think it would have been really easy to lose your head in those last 3 minutes and let a second goal in, because there was absolutely a push for a second goal, and Montreal kept their defensive lines intact to get out of there at 1-0 and not let it unfold.
Yeah, I thought Sebastian Breza was outstanding in goal. 7 saves for him on the night. It was mostly Santos Laguna with the attacking impetus here. 26 shots to 7, 8 shots on target to 2. They had control of the game. Montreal was holding on for large portions, but John, they almost got out of there. We'll get into the VAR decision here in just a second. Wilfred Nancy not very happy with the refereeing in general, not just about that situation. But I think Montreal showed that they're not going to be an easy team to deal with this season in CONCACAF or in MLS.
Yeah, and we saw that last season with Wilfred Nancy and with Montreal. They're going to be a pain. And it doesn't matter what league we're talking about. They're going to be nose to nose with you for the full 90 minutes. And for me, in general, when we get past CONCACAF Champions League, I'm looking forward to seeing what Montreal looks like in this full season with Wilfred Nancy here in MLS. But not intimidated by your surroundings. Santos Laguna at the bottom of the table in Liga MX with a horrific defense, but you go into that kind of an environment, and there were a lot of folks there last night, and I give the Santos fans a lot of credit for showing up midweek, but not intimidated. You go in, you're that close to getting out with a goalless draw and having a lot of momentum carrying you home. I still think, like Jarrett and like you, I'm fairly certain that Montreal's got a great chance to come out of there with a result and make it to the final 8. But there were some things there that you can take with you going home, first and foremost, that you weren't intimidated by going to Mexico, where, if I remember the number correctly, 3/4 of the time when you have teams either in the United States or Canada playing teams from Liga MX, it ends up that the Liga MX side ends up with the win. And you got to give Montreal a lot of credit for being that close to coming out of there with a result for them that they can carry home.
Yeah, I mean, the credit's it's there for sure. Doesn't help you in the end game here, and they've got to produce more in the second leg, and they've got to make it more difficult, for Santos to create that many chances. You shouldn't have your goalkeeper making 7 saves in a match. They should have had an early goal. At least they had one. It was in the back of the net. VAR brings it back. There was a foul in the build-up play. It was Burns says 2 passes before. That feels right. Just looking back at it in my head. Tackle, foul, could have been called. It wasn't called on the field. I'd have to go back and see where the referee was because that affects where I go with this. Is it a foul watching the video? Yeah, it's a foul watching the video. Did the referee see it and not call a foul in the run of play? If he saw it and said it wasn't a foul in the run of play, I do not like VAR getting involved there because that's re-refereeing situations. We saw this a lot when VAR was introduced into leagues. We saw it happen in MLS a lot more then than it does now. We saw it happen in every league, really, except for the Premier League because they've been afraid of VAR from day one. If he saw it and said it wasn't a foul in the run of play and then gets talked into the foul by the VAR, that's going above what the VAR should be doing. If he saw it and he wasn't sure and he knew that he had VAR as a backup, different conversation. If he saw it, thought it was a foul, didn't want to blow the whistle because he wanted to get a look at it or he wanted the VAR to look at it before he made the decision and it played out, okay. That's the part we just don't know. I'm a little surprised it wasn't called on the run of play. I'm a little surprised that didn't get called initially because it's a foul. But to have it go down this way, it has that emotional swing. And when you have that and then you have the situation on a back pass where the flag goes up, which is just completely and utterly incorrect, you get a team that's frustrated. Now, credit to Montreal for handling it as well as they could. Wilfred Nancy said about the first goal being called back, it's a shame because we started the match well, which I agree. Says they told us there was a foul. I don't know. It's hard to accept. I was not happy with the referees tonight. They looked lost at times. And yeah, when you're calling back passes offside, you're lost. And this was O'Shea Nation, who's one of the better referees outside of MLS and Mexico and Canada in CONCACAF. And yeah, it was a little all over the place at times. This is the challenge in CONCACAF. This is the challenge in some of these situations where you're introducing VAR, and did they overstep their bounds, or did Nation use it correctly and say, hey, I think there might be something here. Can you give me a look? Or I didn't see it. I was screened, and maybe he didn't get to see it in live action. Okay, that's what VAR is there for. But then you see the other stuff, and it gets in your head, and whether you've played at this level, whether you've been on the bench at this level, whether you've kind of been in the feel of a team in a game like this, and those decisions start to go against you, Jarrett, it can definitely mess with your performance. It can. Now, Montreal showed a lot of good mental strength here to be able to handle it, but these are some of the things that happen in CONCACAF. Calls go against you. We've seen it over the years for a long time, and you have to just deal. I think, all things considered, Montreal dealt pretty well, even though the frustration was very real.
Yeah, I thought they did. It should have been frustrating because it's a couple things that that you're going to feel like go against you because if nothing else, if you want to get, I guess, granular about it, and you want to get grumpy about it if you're Montreal, you can look at it in the sense of, hey, we've played in games like this where, other teams have benefited from missed calls, and here we're getting dinged by missed calls, and it feels like we just can't get on the front foot, and when we do, we slip on a banana peel that someone just happened to put down in front of us, but it's a good fight, and it's a moral victory. You can say what you want about moral victories. I'm not a fan of them myself in most cases, although they are case dependent. Moral victories won't cut in the second leg, and Montreal knows that. Montreal knows what they're going to have to do to go in the second leg to advance. You have to go win at home, and yeah, things might not go your way there either, but there's nothing you can do about that. All you can do is try and put the ball in the back of the net a couple times and keep them out. And I think Montreal can do it because this is a Montreal team that ain't a lot different from last year's, and they were hell to play for a lot of people. They were not an enjoyable team to play. I know a couple of people on the Twitch pitch have mentioned, have mentioned Victor Wanyama. Victor Wanyama's heel turn is fantastic and
he was great last
fascinating
night,
all at
too.
the same time.
He was really good last night.
The second act of his career is pretty damn impressive. I did not think he was going to be doing this when he came in on a TAM deal. I did not think he still had. No, he has the talent to do these sort of things. I didn't think he would be able to stay healthy and that he had the tread on the tires to do this. He's been so impressive. Also, he's a great heel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, definitely. And Atlanta fans are going to have that feeling after his incident with Joseph Martinez in the goal, and then the
Something
rest
about
of
when
it.
American teams go to Canada, and we gotta have rumbles. At least this wasn't a bottle service rumble. But still.
It's just Atlanta and Montreal and Toronto, and I haven't seen Vancouver in a while, but probably we'll see them and have issues with them the next time they're in British Columbia. Burns says, I guess the ref didn't call the original foul. Burton says, I guess the ref didn't call the original foul because the Mexican player went down very dramatically. The Montreal player, he did kick a standing leg from behind him. It's a foul. But the question of what the referee saw does affect if the VAR should have been involved. Because me, and I think the way the VAR has been described, we don't want re-refereeing of the game through the video assistant referee. We don't want that. So, yeah, you can go back and look in the build-up play of every goal, and a lot of times you can find something. Those are the ones that feel like the bigger reach from a VAR situation. This was correct. It's by the book. But should the VAR have intervened, I'd love to know what the referee saw in the incident. Because if he saw it and decided it wasn't a foul and then was talked into the foul, that's a problem. And that's not what VAR is supposed to be there for. It's all about the mechanics of it. We'll see how it goes in CONCACAF. Look, it's new. This was the first time that we saw it in CONCACAF Champions League. We'll see how it continues to go because there's no telling when you're talking about refereeing and CONCACAF. Jarrett, got an update for you. NYC, according to Cesar Luis Merlo, has decided not to sell Tati Castellanos. Tati wants to go to River Plate. NYC's not going to sell. $11.5 million was the last offer from River. That did go up from around 10, which had been reported before. They're going to give him more money, according to Cesar Luis Merlo, and they're going to look for a sale to Europe in June. But they're not going to sell him to River right now.
River will be back in June.
They absolutely could be. Because Julian Alvarez could be headed to Manchester City by that point.
Whether or not they get him, he'll be back. They'll be back to the table with an offer. Now, what happens to that offer, God only knows. But
yeah, no, they'll definitely be talking because Alvarez is supposed to go to City in the summer. There has been talk that they might keep him at River for the whole calendar year and join after the World Cup in Manchester. River would love that, but if they can't get that to happen, then yeah, I think they're back in a big way in June to try to get Tati Castellanos. But I also think that if Tati continues doing what he's doing right now, building off of the year he had last year, the Serie A clubs are going to come in bigger than they did before. And I think there is a realistic possibility that he goes to Europe in June. But I don't think he finishes the season with New York City. I don't see any way that happens. But where he goes in June could be up.
No, but if Hébert's a functioning human being, they'll be fine.
They should be fine. And they'll have time now. And that's the thing. If you're planning on the move in June, you have time now to go ahead and start looking for that replacement. And I think one place they go look is one of their CFG groups that Santiago Rodriguez came from. Others will come from is Montevideo City Torque, where it was a kind of a smaller club. They were in the Libertadores opening round of qualification, lost an epic shootout last night in Guayaquil to Barcelona. Some of the best penalties I've ever seen. It was absurd, this penalty shootout. Finally, one miss from Torque, and Barcelona goes through into the next round. But when you look at the CFG kind of model, and it's funny how this will affect Castellanos, kind of on a couple different fronts, because you have Manchester City involved with Alvarez, which could create an opening for Castellanos at River. I feel like the players coming up from Uruguay into New York City is kind of the pipeline. Red Bull hasn't created that pipeline to feed New York yet. I think South America through Montevideo City Torque to New York City could be a pipeline. Now, they could go out and spend more money elsewhere too. Don't get me wrong. But I think you're going to see more and more that is the default. And if they don't find anybody else, they might take the top striker from that team and bring them up to help back up Eber, who should be a guy who starts in the second half of the season. Now he's got even more time to get healthy and get ready.
No, I think you're right.
It's going to be interesting to see how they balance out, though. Oh, go ahead, John.
No, I think that, and I'll send it to you, Jared, here in just a sec. But no, I think you're right on. And what it also does is it gives you that secondary pipeline. Well, yes, you can go spend money. That can be your default. You go chasing after players and all that. But you have the pipeline, and you have the entire CFG group at your disposal. And if you're looking for the economical player that you can take from Montevideo City Torque, send him to NYC, or if there's someone that you think that can skip a couple of steps and that could be a lot less expensive to go to Montevideo, bring a player, put him into the Manchester City pipeline. I think that that's obviously a benefit to the CFG group, Jarrett. But yeah, I think that this could be something that we have to look at as part of the directions.
One thing, John, I don't think everything is based off a Manchester City pipeline. I do not get that impression with CFG. I think with Red Bull, everything is based off feeding Leipzig. I don't think realistically Manchester City and CFG is sitting there thinking that everything is going to end up coming to Manchester. It's why I think they're doing it better. New York City had success last year. They won the league. Not every player from New York City, and they're not feeding players to New York City who they think will make the move to Manchester City. They're feeding New York City because they want that club to do well.
Right.
They want Montevideo City Torque to do well. They want Yokohama to do well. They want Melbourne to do well. They use the network, but no, I thoroughly disagree. It's not all about producing players for Manchester City. It's about making their team successful and playing in an identifiable city kind of way. And that's why they went out and sought Pep Guardiola. It's why they got him. If you watched the Libertadores match last night, you saw a team of pretty much very young Uruguayans trying to play. Did it always work? No. They were under pressure. They did not abandon their philosophy. They did not abandon their way of play. They tried to play. They played a 17-year-old. He converted a penalty in the shootout. One of the more promising young players in Uruguay. At least one other teenager in the starting lineup. They tried to play, but it's about benefiting the network as a whole. Guys will go to Girona to help Girona, not just to end up in Manchester. They're not doing it totally top down. And that's why they're having more success with it. Red Bull, everything is based on feeding Leipzig. Salzburg to a lesser extent, but Salzburg could walk in and throw money around and beat everybody in Austria. It's not that difficult right now with the amount of riches that they're spending. But yeah, where do the best Salzburg players generally go? They go to Leipzig. That's kind of the idea. If they fit the model, they go. But you also have a more strict model of play that Red Bull has been kind of battling. We've had this conversation about Leipzig and Jesse Marsch and Nagelsmann and expanding the way they play or being very true to the original vision. They're going to have players who come through that don't fit, that they cast out, that go to other places. But it's ultimately about their style and Leipzig. City, I don't think is that. And I think it's a better system. But New York will absolutely benefit, Jared, as we talk about Castellanos leaving in the summer. New York will absolutely benefit from the relationship with Montevideo City. They already benefited from the relationship with Yokohama, bringing in Thiago Martins as a center back. That's in the family. There will probably be others as well, but NYC is in a really good position here with the Castellanos situation. You keep him happy, he keeps producing. You tell him, look, we're going to sell you in the summer. We're going to get you to Europe. That's where you want to go. We're going to make as much money as we can along the way too. And hey, we're going to compensate you for keeping you here for another 6 months. Feels like a win-win-win for everybody.
It does. Now you just have to go out there and hope production continues, and then you're betting on him continuing to do what he did so that you can make more money, and he's betting on himself in the same way. I know he's eager to make that move to kickstart that, but it's also hey, man, just go out there for 6 more months and do what you did the other night.
Help us win CONCACAF Champions League, too, which is a huge part of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, you go out there, you make that happen, you're going to be able to pick, from a long list of places you want to go, because we will have offers from a number of places that you might want to go. And I hope that he will continue to do that. And yeah, Hebert can hopefully work his way back in, because he was so much fun when he was healthy. Hopefully he's able to continue to be that guy when he gets back healthy. And even if he doesn't, yeah, they'll go find somebody, because it is a good explanation of the difference between them and the Red Bull organization, in the same sense that I still have, I still have, those sympathetic feelings for New York Red Bulls fans, because they're just kind of treated like, secondary citizens by the Red Bull organization, because they consider New York Red Bulls to be, hey, you produce for us and we'll take it away from you, and then we're going to go make something big. You just keep producing. Don't worry about winning anything. Like, that sucks. That's not a fun life. But yeah, City Football Group, seems to be doing it in a much more fun way for everyone involved in in New York City, and pretty much all the City Football Group.
I think CFG is more about
don't treat everybody like a single A team.
Yes,
basically,
it's more about everybody having success in their own places. It's more about philosophy and the style of play. And yeah, guys will move from place to place when it fits, when it suits them, but they're not going to only look for guys that have the projection to end up in Manchester and not worry about the rest, which is what Red Bull's done with New York. Now, just to clear up a couple of things in the chat. Yeah, Red Bull has a team in Brazil, Bragantino, but they don't feed New York. It's not about feeding New York. If anything, I think New York would feed Bragantino if you're going to get down into pipelines of things in the way Red Bull's done it. But also, Bragantino is a little bit of an outlier for Red Bull, and I've said it before. I wonder what they will do ultimately with that club. Because, I mean, if you're taking the Red Bull style of play and you're going to take it to Brazil, they're going to look at you like you have 6 heads, because it's so different from the mentality of the Brazilian game. Bragantino doesn't play like a traditional Red Bull team. Is that a marketing exercise to put Red Bull on a team and boost them up and have success? Or is that maybe an opportunity to try some different things? I don't really know where Bragantino fits into it yet, but they don't use it as a pipeline to New York. I don't know really how they see New York outside of a beachhead in the United States. They got Tyler Adams out of it, and that was really good for them. Can they get anything more out of it? They've tried with Caden Clark. We'll see what happens in the long term with him. Beyond that, I don't really know. I'm not sure. We'll see. I think CFG is looking at things more holistically. Let's talk a little bit about Carolina Challenge Cup. Miami beat Charleston last night in the nightcap. You had some handbags in the Charlotte-Columbus game. Bench clearing incident. Jordi Reyna with a really cheap kind of foul, but the game, I couldn't see it here in Atlanta. I was relying on reports from Columbus and Charlotte people, and it sounded like it was getting very chippy as we went further along. And sure, it just disappears. I was going to ask him something else, but he just left. Things were getting very chippy, and you had an incident with Reyna with a kind of cheap foul. Columbus took exception. Ortiz, I think, shoved a Columbus player to the ground, and then everybody gets all upset. A little bit of heat already between Charlotte and Columbus. Didn't see that one coming.
No, I didn't see that one coming either. But, I think that if you're Charlotte and if you're a fan of Charlotte, it reminds me a lot of hockey, where if you are, if you're the underdog or you're an underdog team and you're going into a situation where the bigger guy is challenging you and you get into the pushy shovey, and then all of a sudden it really starts to escalate.
You get into the what?
Pushy shovey.
Yeah. The pushy shovey. Is this an official term, or are you making things up?
I've used it when it comes to hockey. I mean, it's
you've used it in hockey? Did you get punched?
No, I did not.
I'm surprised.
But no, but I think that in these situations where you see something escalate and you're a new team that is struggling, and we're not gonna hide that, but I think that if you're struggling and you have these moments of unity where you can sit there and respond as a group and jump into the fray, or you could just sit there and say, nah, it's his problem, let him deal with it. I think that having these kinds of moments of unity can help Charlotte, at least in the locker room going forward. Obviously, in a preseason tournament, it's not going to help you a whole lot when it ends up being the way that it is. But I think that having these early moments can help unify you as a team going into what we know is going to be a very rough first season.
Yeah, it can. I don't think you're looking for it. Like, you're not trying to manufacture it. The kind of cheap shot from Reyna was weird again, not without seeing everything. You're not sure of all of the context here, but yeah, it can. It can galvanize things a little bit. It doesn't create wingers out of thin air.
No.
And that's going to really be the biggest issue for Charlotte. I don't know if they've decided on really what their 11 is looking like at this stage, because, as we've said, it feels very incomplete. I'm not sure what their lineup is going to be. Anton Walks didn't start this when he came on the second half. Is he going to be looked at as a starter with that group? Good reports out of Charlotte on Guzman Corujo, the Uruguayan center back, who's come in. Maybe he gets the nod. McCoon has looked very good for them, according to reports as well. I thought he was good with Miami last year. So, what does the lineup look like in some of the positions they do have depth? And then how do they solve the issue of not having really everything that the manager would want? I don't know. Just have to see as this continues. They've got one more game in the Carolina Challenge Cup. They haven't scored in the competition yet in 180 minutes. They play Miami, who is leading it with a win and a draw. They play them on, I think it's Saturday. I think Charleston's playing on Friday in the last game of it. It's a little bit different kind of structure to the tournament this time around. There's preseason games this morning as well. Toronto and Houston are playing in Austin. That is about to start. I was very curious as to what Toronto's lineup looked like. We were talking about this yesterday with Dylan Butler, trying to figure out what their personnel is going to be. And they're another one that's hard to figure out. Okay, we kind of know how Bob Bradley wants to play. We look at the roster, and there's not enough pieces in some of the positions to make it work. So how does the manager adjust? How does he see this thing working? Really curious on that one. Curious about LAFC as well. And we talked about them yesterday with Carlos Vela's comments and everything going on there. What that lineup looks like. They've played in preseason recently. Franco Escobar started at right back. Is that going to be the spot for him? Hollingshead came in with the second group in that match. Is that going to be the spot for him? What does the midfield look like? And how does Cherundolo manage that? So when you're talking about three different managers like those three, Bob Bradley, ton of experience in MLS. Miguel Angel Ramirez, not as much experience, nowhere close to Bob Bradley's level of experience. Success in South America, winning a Copa Sudamericana, first time in the States. Steve Cherundolo, second year coaching in the States, first time as the main guy with a first team, ton of experience as a player in Germany. Three very different kinds of managers and similar problems in some ways as to deciding what their lineup looks like. And LAFC's got the bodies, but how do you fit them around? Toronto and Charlotte don't necessarily have the bodies to do what the manager wants to do. And how do they move the pieces around to make that work? Some big questions for a few teams a week and a half out.
And LAFC has the offensive firepower, and they have to figure things out, how it's going to look at the midfield and the back and how things are going to look in net. Toronto.
No. They know how it's going to work in net, John. They got Maxime Crépeau. They got
true.
One of the best goalkeepers in the league, and they're very different than they've been. It's not the same old LAFC conversation as it's been for a couple of years. They've got the bodies in the midfield, which they've always had, and in the back line, which they didn't always have. They didn't always have the goalkeeper. You've got a top 5 goalkeeper in the league in Crépeau.
Yes.
You've got 2 options at right back in Kim Moon-Hwan and Franco Escobar. You've got 2 options at left back in Ryan Hollingshead and Diego Palacios. You've got multiple options at center back. Seems like it's going to be Mamadou Fall and Eddie Segura. But you have options now. You have maybe a true holding midfielder in Ilie and a guy who can play that role, and he does it for the national team in Kellen Acosta. which Edward Atuesta, not really a true number 6. So they've addressed on the roster their issues. It is not the same conversation as LAFC. We've got to tear up those note cards and throw them away. It's time for a new conversation. And what it is for me is, what's the deal with Carlos Vela?
Mm-hmm.
And can Steve Cherundolo manage that level of talent to wins and to getting them into the postseason? Because that's what they're going to be judged by. Competitive Western Conference, can Cherundolo make it all work? And the Vela situation is hanging over everybody's head. It's a different set of problems in LA.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is a different set of problems. We were talking about it yesterday, and I will once again emphasize, I am not envious of John Thorrington and Steve Cherundolo in this particular situation with an unhappy Carlos Vela. And the gymnastics that you're going to have to try to figure out to gauge Carlos Vela and his level of enthusiasm and all of those different dynamics that you have with him coming into a season, which is going to be a challenge for Steve Cherundolo. It's going to be one of those teams for me, because of what we've been talking about as much as we have, that it will end up being must-see viewing for me when it comes to MLS After Dark, because of everything that we've been discussing. It's going to be it's a very challenging thing for Steve Cherundolo to be jumping into for different reasons of what we've been talking about in the past.
Yeah, I mean, LAFC's always been an MLS After Dark team to watch because of the firepower and just wondering what the defense looks like. It's a different set of reasons. I think they're a must-watch. Toronto and Charlotte are going to be must-watches early on because they have similar problems in that they don't have a lot of depth in wide positions. Now, Toronto knows that Lorenzo Insigne is going to show up in the summer. Charlotte's got to figure out when other impact player, and they got to figure out wing depth. That's where I'm just baffled in terms of the roster construction, because, and I'm baffled in Toronto too, just to maybe get away from just picking on Charlotte here with roster construction. What LAFC's done, you got to give John Thorrington credit. Now he's got to deal with the Carlos Vela situation, and that's one that maybe he's pushed off. You know, Diego Rossi now is being linked with a move potentially to Brazil. He's on loan in Turkey. How does that all sort itself out? Okay. Brian Rodriguez is going to have to go at some point. You're probably going to get requests for Cifuentes, maybe Janela, maybe Palacios. You're going to have to deal with all that. But he's built a deep roster. They are too deep across the board. That's impressive. How does the manager handle it? Different question. Toronto has not built a too deep roster across the board. Charlotte has not built a too deep roster across the board. It's not even close. And in some of those cases, and both of them have those situations, they're not even one deep in terms of a natural fit at a position. Charlotte has one winger, one true winger. Mackenzie Gaines can turn into a winger, but you got work to do. Toronto has 2 left backs and no right backs, and then very unproven wingers. Okay, what does that look like? I don't know how they solve these issues. We're just going to have to see. Can they, put some flimsy tape over it for a little while? Sure. You can have a player play out of position for a while. You can get something out of that for a while. They're going to get found out unless you are able to develop it. You got 2 coaches who are very good coaches in Bradley and Ramirez. 2 guys who can develop talent. They're going to have their work cut out for them, because right now it looks like Ramirez is going to have to develop Mackenzie Gaines into a winger very fast with no depth behind him. Bradley's going to have to develop some fullbacks and probably some wingers too while he's at it. Or they're going to have to find ways to play it's maybe a little out of their comfort zone that hides the issues. And that's another thing that top coaches do. They're able to hide the deficiencies and accentuate the positives. Okay, how do they handle that? I really want to see what these last lineups in preseason look like for Toronto, for Charlotte, for LAFC too. Different conversation, but for them too. Those are 3 teams with some big questions coming into the season, which starts in about a week and a half.
Yeah, you mentioned flimsy tape, and what popped into my head was literally wallpapering over the cracks and hiding these issues. God forbid.
It's trying to create a new cliche. Didn't want to use the wallpapering over the cracks one.
$1 in the jar for me.
Yeah.
But God forbid with the current situation right now in Charlotte, that there be an injury of someone in a
if Ortiz goes down, you got nothing in the attack.
Yeah,
you got nothing.
And so, if Ortiz or Gaines or somebody that you're trying to place into a square peg round hole situation just so you can sit there and use the flimsy tape, if there's an injury problem, then you're really in trouble, and you're basically sitting there and crossing your fingers and trying to figure out salt over the shoulder and anything that you can do to make sure that until you get the situation fixed, which you hope is sooner rather than later, that you can just make sure that the guys are as healthy as possible, and you have to monitor them to make sure that they're not being overexerted. And I can't believe I'm saying that, and we haven't even gotten into the season yet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you can't manage a team that way though, John. Not when you get into the season. You can't wrap somebody in bubble wrap. You can't say, okay, Titi Ortiz, you're really good, you're really important, but don't overexert yourself. You can't. There's nothing you can do about that.
Players aren't going to want that.
Well, that's not even players don't want that. Fans don't want that. Nobody wants that. You can't do it. It's not realistic at the professional level. Kids level where it doesn't matter, sure. This level, nah, you can't do that. You can't ask people to come out and buy tickets to set a record for attendance and then tell Titi Ortiz, like, yeah, be careful. Don't get hurt there because we don't have anybody else behind you. It doesn't work. Can't do it. You got to play. And you just got to cross your fingers. And when the problem comes, because it will at some point, you got to get creative in dealing with it. Ramirez is going to have to get really creative. Mm-hmm. Now, he's good. He's going to have to get really creative. Bob Bradley's going to have to get really creative in his first half of the year.
I was going to ask you, what do you think that he does, considering
we
talked about LAFC and we talked about Charlotte? How do you think he uses
no idea. He's got nobody at right back. Like, could he play a left back on the right side? Sure. Then you have no depth at fullback, period. Is he going to drop one of his wingers to a right back? Maybe. I mean, you could go 3-4-3 with it and play, wing backs where it's easier to put a winger in that kind of a role. Saw that here with Justin Merrim when you had injuries with Atlanta United, and eventually that got found out because teams started to attack him because he's not a good defender in those situations. Yeah, I mean, at least Toronto, that you've got firepower coming, but your attack is already pretty decent, so it doesn't really change the problem. My gut is that Bradley maybe goes to a 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 kind of a shape and asks one of his young players to do the best they can on the right side while he tries to get another right back, because he's going to have to get one. Larrea sold, Auro loaned. They had 2 starters in that position. Now they have 0. So how do you handle it? I think Bradley will do that. Now, Ramirez is a little bit different because Bradley's not as married to a particular style and philosophy. Ramirez is more married to one, and he's trying to establish it. So it's a harder situation for him. Like, he always wants to play with wingers, and he doesn't have wingers to play with. So what can he really do? Because you don't have a lot of other positives. Like, you can't say, all right, well, like in Toronto's case, and it's not as strong as it used to be, but if you believe in Priso, if you believe in Noble Okello, you can say, all right, we can play 3 central midfielders and play wing backs and play a 3-5-2 and still achieve what we want to achieve. If you do that in Charlotte and you decide, all right, well, we don't want to accentuate the wide players. Do we want to play some variation of a 4-4-2 that's narrow and play Ortiz as a kind of a 10 kind of a role? Well, you don't have a lot of great central midfielders to play in that role either. So you don't really have an easy solution. Toronto can find it easier, and Bradley being, I think, more experienced and a little more pragmatic in terms of just taking what he's got to work with, I think he'll find it. Might take him a minute, but I think he'll find it. Ramirez is in just a really tough spot. And look, he told you exactly how he felt about it, because there's not an easy way to solve the problem. And that's a challenge that coaches get into sometimes. Coaching is problem solving. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have loss of form. You're going to have issues off the field where, we don't know it, but the coaching staff knows it. A player could be depressed. A player could have something going on at home. Like, there could be so many different reasons that affect it. You got to solve the problems. And then solve the problems in the game and try to win. It's hard. And when you don't have the personnel and you don't have the resources and the weapons to be able to do that, it gets even harder. And we'll see what rabbits out of the hat Miguel Angel Ramirez can find, because I'm anxious to see what he comes up with. John, tell us about our good friends over at Eliminize.
Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place that you need to go. It's Eliminize Service, deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes or food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize Service to eliminate bad odors, to help them sell or rent their facilities that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. It's a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue. Very, very kind to the environment, different than the masking agents that we have under our sinks that just kind of mask over the odors and don't attack the actual problems. Eliminize Service does that for you. It's a proven scientific formula that destroys odor down to the molecule. Pricing is easy, one of two ways. Either by the cubic foot or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you, results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, here's how you can get them answered. Go to their website, eliminize.com. Be sure to use /Atlanta after you use eliminize.com. So eliminize.com/Atlanta, so they know what part of the world that you are talking to them from. eliminize.com/Atlanta. Eliminize Service for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
Jeff Carlisle dropping some news. We talked about Legia Warsaw attacking midfielder Luquinhas coming to the Red Bulls, I think a week ago, maybe a little bit longer. Agent was spotted. Things were happening. Jeffrey Carlisle says that it is done, according to his sources. 3-year contract, club option year that will make him a designated player, eligible to play once he gets his visa and ITC. 25 years old, 2.5 years at Legia, 12 goals and 110 league and cup appearances, 2 league titles at Legia Warsaw. Had played entirely in Portugal before that. Did spend some time with Benfica, started with a smaller team on his way up. He is expected, according to Carlisle, to play as an inverted winger in Struber's system, which, if that is accurate, is a big little piece of news. Big little. There we go. Stupid comments from me. It's big because we saw Red Bulls play almost entirely out of a 4-4-2 last year. And sometimes it'd be a box, sometimes it'd be a diamond. We've asked the question. You went out and got Lewis Morgan. You've got Cameron Harper, who's a winger in this team too. Didn't really fit last year. Are they going to go to a 4-2-3-1 kind of a shape? We've seen Red Bull teams play that way before, but Gerhard Struber didn't really do it last year. Now he's got some more pieces. If he's going to play Morgan on the right, I would assume that would mean Luquinhas on the left. Play 3 central midfielders, one of his forwards, probably Patrick Klimala. Then you're looking at 3 in the midfield: Yearwood, Cáceres, is it Clark as the 10? That suits Caden Clark a little bit more. Frankie Amaya, Wickelman Carmona, Omer Fernandez are all on the outside looking in. Jesus Castellano, who was signed this year, all on the outside looking in when you play 3 central midfielders rather than 4. But it fits your big acquisition of Morgan. It fits potentially Luquinhas. Now, again, Luquinhas could play as a 10. But that last line, if you've been listening to the show and you do your homework and you study how teams play, that last line is what popped my eyes open, of expected to play as an inverted winger in manager Gerhard Struber's system. Okay, let's see if that's accurate, because if that is, it's very different than we saw from the Red Bulls in the past, and we've wondered how these pieces would fit. Well, that might be how they fit, is to play with wingers, which they didn't really do last year.
That will be interesting. And I think to your point, sometimes the best information can be found at the end of something. And when you say it's a big piece, small piece of news, the signing is part of this. But when you go to the end of the story and you get that little piece of information, then that can kind of lead you down a path of, okay, here's what the thought pattern is when it comes to bringing in players and bringing in ideas for Struber next year. So no, I think that that this will be interesting to see how it lays out when we get to look at Red Bulls coming out of the blocks here in a couple of weeks.
Now, one thing that they did as the year went on last year is they did show some 5-4-1 that had some variety to it, but it wasn't always easy to read. Go back to the game they played against Atlanta United. That wasn't as much of a 5-4-1 as we saw in some other games because Tolkien was, looking at it at Sofa Score, they had him as a left center back. He played as a left back. Kyle Duncan played as a right back. Reyes and Nealis were center backs. Yearwood, Davis, Caceres, and Clark were your four-man midfield. Fabio and Klimala were up top. But then in decision day against Nashville, you look at the lineup and kind of the same thing, except Gutman was more of a left center back in that situation. Tolkien was a left wing back. Edwards was a right wing back. Sean Nealis and Andres Reyes were also center backs. That's more of a line of five. Drew Yearwood, Sean Davis, Caden Clark, Christian Caceres, four central midfielders. Of course, guys can flare out a little bit, but really a box midfield. And Fabio up top, and they went with something similar in the playoff match against Philadelphia. Now, center backs, they're not going to be able to do that to start the season. And look, maybe this is part of Gerhard Struber solving those problems, right? You've got Aaron Long back. Reyes is out for a period of time. You've got Sean Nealis. You've got Lucas Monzon. That's three center backs available to start things off. Dylan Nealis can play some center back if needed, but he's better on the right side. You've got Tolkien. You've got Pendant. I think Tolkien is by far going to be the option on the left side. I think they're going to play a line of four primarily. But that midfield, Yearwood, Caceres, Caden Clark, Frankie Amaya, Wickelman Carmona, Omer Fernandez, Jesus Castellanos new, Bento Estrella has been there for a minute. Daniel Edelman is a new homegrown signing. That's a whole bunch of central midfielders that if you're going to play three, that's fine. Then you've got Cameron Harper, Lewis Morgan, Patrick Klima, Tom Barlow, Omar Sow, Zach Ryan as your 4 or 6 wingers plus strikers. Still a little thin on the outside. You add Lucchinius, that gives you another one. I'll be watching the Red Bulls early on to see what Gerhard Struber does with this group. Really, really fascinating with that. In action today, hopefully we'll get Mike Conti here in just a bit. He had something pop up at 10 o'clock, so that's why he made his quick dashing appearance, and we'll see when we can get him back in. In action today, Champions League, Inter hosting Liverpool in the first leg. What are the numbers on that game, John?
Let's take a peek. And once again, this is courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. It's a composite.
Okay.
Inter is a plus 257. Your 90-minute draw is a plus 254. Liverpool's a plus 112.
You're all excited about the Liverpool number. I'm excited about the Inter numbers.
Yes.
Well, you're excited about the Liverpool number, right?
Well,
I got excited when you said it.
I was just emphasizing that they were a road favorite. I was not excited about the Liverpool number. Usually when you're a home dog at a plus 257.
Look, John, we knew Liverpool was going to be favored. That's nothing new. I'm a little surprised it's this wide of a margin.
Right.
I think Inter's a better team than they're getting credit for here. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, I'm right there with you. And Pep Guardiola said...
I didn't think you were right there with me, but anyway, go ahead.
I am. No, and Pep Guardiola yesterday, actually in his post-match press conference, when he was asked about teams that, I think it was Peter Schmeichel who asked him about teams that are in the tournament, and Peter said a bunch of positive things leading into the question, and he asked him, okay, what team do you think can challenge you for the championship, the championship of the Champions League, the title in the Champions League? And he said Liverpool, because Liverpool's a pain in the ass. Literally.
Yeah, no. I think you're misunderstanding me, John. Liverpool is a team that can win the Champions League. There's no surprise about Liverpool being favored in this game. It's the least surprising thing ever. I think Inter is possibly being overlooked, is what I'm saying. Inter can beat Liverpool, is what I'm saying. We know Liverpool's a favorite. They're look at what they have. Look at how good they are. I mean, Of course. They've been battling with Manchester City for 5 years now. Pep and Klopp have been fighting it out. They look at the game differently. That part's no surprise. I don't think Liverpool has an easy draw here with Inter. That's the point that I'm making. Inter lost to Milan a couple of weeks ago. They bounced back and beat Roma in Coppa Italia. They drew at Napoli 1-1, which I think was a good result for Inter in that situation. They've been very good this year. They don't have as many of the big names. They did have to make a lot of changes. But when you've got Edin Dzeko, when you've got Lautaro Martinez up top, and you have, I think, what we've seen from Inzaghi this year on the touchline, Inter can get a result here. I really like the draw number. I think Inter's going to need more than that to be able to have a chance to go to Anfield and advance. But I don't think Liverpool's walking through this at all. And if they come in with that attitude, they might take an L today.
And looking at that number, I mean, legitimately, you look at Inter as a home dog at a plus 257. I mean, I agree with you that especially in these two legs, I think that, we can reference CONCACAF Champions League from what we were seeing last night and what we've been seeing in Champions League today. I think that if you are a home team that is an underdog under general circumstances, that looking at that draw option is a solid play. But because of what we've seen from Inter recently, I think it's an even stronger play, if not getting a positive result for them, that they would need to go to Anfield in that second leg. No, I think that, like I said, for me, traditionally...
You're picking Liverpool, though. Don't lie.
Oh, I am picking Liverpool. I'm not going to lie. But what I'm saying is that you can't ignore something north of plus 250 for a team that has been doing what Inter has recently. I think it would be foolish to ignore it. And I thought that you would have said that I would have gone with the draw option here, considering our past history, and not picking Liverpool to win.
No, it's an English team, and you're biased towards the English teams. I heard it in your voice. This is why I reacted when you went through the numbers and you said, "Oh, Liverpool's a plus." I knew what you were reacting to, and you're always going to bet on the English team in this situation. I think Liverpool's got a tougher match than others think that they do here. I don't think Bayern has as tough of a match as Liverpool does. They are in Austria against Salzburg. Big favorites, Bayern, as they should be in this one. No surprises there. They should be heavily favored. I mean, it's not going to be easy for them. Salzburg is very good. They have progressed from Jesse Marsch's year. Look, they got to this point in the Champions League. That was something that Marsch wasn't able to do during his time at Salzburg. It's a big opportunity for Brendan Aronson on the world stage. Huge opportunity for the U.S. men's national team, winger/10. But Bayern, even where they've had their stumbles and their stutters this year, and they haven't been full Bayern all year long, they should be able to handle this. I would not be looking at anything on Salzburg getting a result.
And when you look at the numbers from BetMGM, Bayern is your number 2 to win Champions League right now. They're at a plus 350, and this was coming into the matchups yesterday. Obviously, they're number 2 to reach the final, number 2 at a plus 160 to reach the final, and at a plus 350 to win the Champions League, behind, obviously, Manchester City. But no, I would anticipate probably a little tougher earlier than late. My guess is a 2-goal margin by the time we're done.
CONCACAF Champions League tonight. No MLS teams involved, but 3 games starting at 6 o'clock. First one on the board is Guastatoya from Guatemala hosting Club León from Mexico. León's 1-2-2 this year. They've lost back-to-back games. They've only got 5 goals in 5 games. They're in 12th in the Clausura table. Guastatoya has been great this season. They haven't lost. They're 4-0-3. Second place in Guatemala, 13 goals scored. They've only conceded 4. They had kind of a wild 2-2 draw with Comunicaciones on Saturday. Not going to be an easy walk for León. I don't know if you have numbers on this or not.
I do. León is a minus 204. Your draw is north of plus 300, and Guastatoya is just under a plus 600 to win tonight.
I was feeling squirrely. I could go draw for Guastatoya. There's a big gap between Liga MX and the Guatemalan League. There is. Guastatoya doesn't have a ton of experience internationally, but they've been getting it here lately. They've been starting to pop up in CONCACAF Champions Leagues, in CONCACAF leagues. Might be trickier than you would expect. I think they'll give a better account of themselves than Forge will. Forge is hosting Cruz Azul in the 8 o'clock game. Forge hasn't played since December 5th in the CPL final. They are in preseason, and they're not anything like an MLS team in preseason. Their league doesn't start until April. So this is really difficult for Forge. Cruz Azul does have some issues behind the scenes. New sporting director coming in. He's had previous issues with the manager, Juan Reynoso. People have wondered if Reynoso would walk. They blew a lead against Necaxa, gave up 2 goals in the last 10 minutes over the weekend, lost 2-1. That's their first loss of the Clausura. They're 3-1-1. Cruz Azul should be a big favorite here. You do have conditions and things like that dealing with the trip to Canada for La Máquina. But what are the numbers with Forge and Cruz Azul?
The weather is going to be 48 degrees.
Oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah,
I saw Cruz Azul all bundled up in some pictures, but yeah, it's not that
bad. It is a windy afternoon in Hamilton, Ontario, but tonight it will be 48 degrees with an 83% chance of rain. So that might be interesting at Tim Hortons Field. But your numbers right now, Cruz Azul is a -250. Your draw is a +366. And Forge to win tonight is north of +650.
I have no faith in the Canadians here. It feels like the Cruz Azul numbers stealing money. Nightcap is Saprissa and Pumas. Pumas come in after a 2-1 win over Leon on the weekend. Saprissa got a late goal in the 97th minute to beat Alajuelense over the weekend. Their rivals, Saprissa, have been bad this season. They're 1-3-1. We know the fear of going to Saprissa and how difficult it can be. We talked about this last time around with Philadelphia playing them in CONCACAF Champions League in the round of 16. This is not the old Saprissa that you should be, completely and utterly having nightmares about. The Monsters Cave isn't so scary as it used to be. What are the numbers with Saprissa and Pumas?
Saprissa at home is a +204. Your draw is a +217. Pumas is a +138.
Oh, give me Pumas! Like you give me a plus number in that game.
That's why I specifically was going the way that I was, because I saw that +138 and I figured you would jump on it.
Yeah, give me Pumas in that situation. Saprissa, still the reputation affects these things in the conversation, and there's this fear of that purple S popping up, but they're not what they used to be right now. They are not what they used to be. Some other games to keep an eye on today. Libertadores qualifiers continue. Bolivar hosting Deportivo Lara and Olimpia hosting Universidad Cesar Vallejo. I mentioned the penalty shootout last night from Ecuador. If you get a chance to go back and watch it, I'm sure there's a clip of it by now with just the penalties. Good grief, the quality of these penalties. I mean, into the roof more times than I've ever seen in a shootout. 8-7 was the final score. Only one save from Buray, goalkeeper I really like for Barcelona. Just the quality of these things. I mean, it was stone cold on these penalties. Just better and better every single time. It was really, really impressive. You've also got Liga MX today. Mazatlan hosting Club America. You got some La Liga action. Atleti hosting Levante. You got the Copa de la Liga in Argentina continuing. River is hosting Patronato at 7:30. And according to early reports out of Argentina, Ezequiel Barco should be making his first start for River Plate in this one. Tomas Pochettino should be starting as well. They're going to keep the back line from the last time around, so no LGP. But Ezequiel Barco expected to start for River in place of De La Cruz. Boca's at Aldo Civi in the 5:15 game, and Tigre hosts Central Cordoba in the 3 o'clock game. All kinds of stuff today, actually. You've got Colombia in action today. A lot of different things to watch, but with all of the Champions League and Libertadores stuff, your day's set.
For me, I think it's going to start with Champions League and then work its way into the other Champions League, because that's 6, 8, and 10. I mean, once the Champions League stuff is over, that usually puts you, about 5 o'clock? So you got a little time to sit there and figure out what you want to do for your meal. You want it to be something that's right there with you, or do you want to pace yourself and figure out what you want to do maybe between matches? You race up to the kitchen when that 10-minute gap before the next one starts. But I think for me, it goes from Champions League to CONCACAF Champions League, and then figure out probably River Plate on the second screen, just so I can keep an eye on River Plate.
Other CONCACAF news before we get into questions from the chat. If you missed it, New England is advancing over Cavalli. They were unable to field a team. It's been technically set up as a withdrawal from the competition. They're going to have to go to the disciplinary committee. But as we've talked about, John Arnold's been all over this stuff. There has been a lot of effort to get this done. I don't think there's going to be any further punishment on them for it. They couldn't get the necessary visas to be able to travel. So New England advances to the quarterfinals. They will face the winner of that Pumas Saprissa series. Some other CONCACAF stuff. The Estadio Nacional in Costa Rica, which if you watched the NYC game, you saw it last night. That's not Santos's normal stadium in Costa Rica. Their normal stadium has an artificial surface. It's not approved. It's also only 3,000 seats. They weren't able to play a CONCACAF game there. They played at the Estadio Nacional. That venue will host both of Costa Rica's last home qualifiers. There'd been some talk that they would move the games to the Estadio Saprissa, which has been a very difficult place to play for teams. They're not going to do that. Will be full capacity in San Jose at the Estadio Nacional. And yes, the last game is against the United States. Hopefully it is meaningless. They also play Canada in a home qualifier. Costa Rica has a very difficult window here, but they get an opportunity to knock off two teams in front of them as they try to get into the mix to qualify. Honduras, there will be no fans at the Estadio Olímpico Metropolitano in San Pedro Sula. Honduran Federation announced Friday that they've received a ban from FIFA. They'll play without fans against Mexico on March 27th, final home game of the cycle. It's due to, quote, regrettable behavior of a group of fans during the game contested January 30th against El Salvador. $75,000 fine as well. So Mexico will go to Honduras, which Honduras is not very good. I don't think Mexico needs a whole lot of help here, but they're going to get some help. No fans in the building. Canada and the U.S. go to Costa Rica at the Estadio Nacional, full capacity, not getting any help in those. They're not going to the Estadio Saprissa, but they're not getting any help from either one of those. So it's going to be difficult. All right, we'll get into questions and any other news that pops up. And if Mike can join us, We'll throw him into the mix as well if he's able to jump in. Burned with a question. Curious if John Tolkien can break through this year as into a national team situation as a backup. He'll get the opportunity to play. And if he does, then yeah, I think the national team roster, and look, they still got work to do. You're not, counting your chickens before they hatch here, but they should get to the World Cup. And then you're starting to think about what the roster looks like the rest of the year. There will be some more than likely high profile friendlies in June in that international break. Be an opportunity to audition, but I think the MLS season could be an audition for some guys. Tolkien's one of them. He is. I mean, when you look at the left side of what the team, can field, Anthony Robinson should be your starter. I think if everybody's healthy and everything's good, but George Bello hasn't broken through into the starting lineup yet at Arminia Bielefeld, although that might happen pretty quick because he looked good off the bench. Sam Vines is in Belgium. Okay, he hasn't lit it up there. Tolkien's got an opportunity. And he's going to play. I think he plays over Pendant easy. I've not been impressed with Jason Pendant at Red Bulls. So I think Tolkien's the guy who's going to get the keys. And if he does well, he should get a look. He should absolutely get a look. And he could be one for the future. Ryan Hollings said somebody probably should have gotten a look by now too, especially in this situation with if you're looking for somebody off the bench, you can play that role and give you something, maybe. But Tolkien has a lot of potential. He'll get more of an opportunity to break into that this year than anything. It is a little bit different style. We know that, but Tolkien will get time for sure. Tom Cato with some news out of New England. Since they're not playing these CCL games and you build everything in your preseason to get these competitive matches under your belt, they're going to play closed door games against Hartford Athletic tomorrow, El Paso on Tuesday. That is interesting. El Paso. It's interesting for them to take that up. El Paso is a good team. They did have some changes in their leadership coming into the season, but they were very good last year. Very different kind of team. It's a long trip for El Paso. I'm sure the Revs are probably helping cover that. You're muted, John. Nobody can hear you.
Yeah, trying to find the tab and then hit the button. But no, coaching change, a bit of a surprise with Mark Lowry last year leaving at the end of the season. I know that they were bounced from the playoffs sooner than they would have anticipated or that they would have liked. But changes in the offseason for El Paso. And yeah, I'm trying to dig and see if El Paso's mentioning anything about traveling to New England in all of my emails.
Well, they're not going to tell you who's paying for it, so I don't think you have to worry about it.
Oh, come on. Who's paying for your trip?
No, I'm not worried about it. Jason Nix asking about Canada's CCL berths. They don't get 2. They get 1, which is the Voyageurs Cup right now. Forge qualified via the CONCACAF League. So they get 1 Canadian berth, and then the CONCACAF League, the CPL winner, goes into that. Kind of an interesting situation with a league that, look, Canada's an interesting situation with teams playing in MLS, but they can't qualify for Champions League through MLS, so you have to have the Voyageurs Cup. But you have the CPL. It's kind of like Wales is maybe the best comparison, where you have teams from Wales playing in the English pyramid, but they can qualify for things. I'm almost certain they can qualify for things if they qualify through the Premier League. So if Swansea gets back to that point and they qualify for Europe, they can qualify through the English League. They can't qualify through the Welsh Cup. So Canada's kind of created a unique situation with this. But yeah, the CPL teams can qualify through the Voyageurs Cup, but they can also go through the CONCACAF League gauntlet. Now, all that's going to change when the tournament expands, so don't get too caught up in it just yet. It's all going to look different very, very soon. Ricky Ricardo wants to know, rank the 7 kits released yesterday. Portland, Seattle, LA Galaxy, Revs, Austin, Colorado, Red Bulls. Off the top of my head, without going through pictures of all of them, I know everybody was giddy about Portland because it was different.
Yeah.
Nah, I mean, it's okay. I don't like Seattle's. Galaxy's is kind of boring. The thing around the neck is weird. The Revs are fine. Austin's is fine. I like Colorado's. I like Red Bulls. So I'll go Colorado 1. I'll go Red Bull 2. I'll go Revs 3. I'll go Portland 4 because, I mean, it's cool because it's different, but it's not the greatest thing ever. I'll go with them 4. I'll go with Austin 5. I'll go Galaxy 6, and I'll go Seattle 7. I don't like that Seattle shirt at all.
Okay. I had Portland at 1 because I liked it because it was different. The rose tint. I
don't like the design. It's too much for me.
I had Colorado at 2. I like the Colorado kit. I have the Revs at 3. Seattle at 4. I wasn't a big fan of it. It was too busy. Red Bulls at 5. It reminded me too much of the Red Bull racing team in Formula One logo. And since I don't like Max Verstappen as a racer, I'm more team Lewis Hamilton. That's why I put Red Bulls down at 5.
Because that affects the style.
Yes, it does. And I had Austin 6 just because it was kind of cool, but there wasn't really anything to it. And obviously for me, the Galaxy were last because you had a ring around your crew neck to be different doesn't mean that you're different. And so Galaxy for me were 7. Actually, I'd put them 8 of 7 if I could.
It's not that bad.
It's just it wasn't anything there, you know? It's like, yeah, okay, great. You did something around your
But I'm sorry. I will take there's nothing there over a monstrosity. Like of trying to put a bunch of stuff there.
No, I will too. I mean, loud is loud, but comparing the Galaxy to me was just kind of there. No, if something is completely and totally loud and garish, I have zero interest in it whatsoever.
Seattle to me is that. That's why they're at the bottom for me. I'm not putting the Galaxy 8 out of 7 because it's 6 out of 7 for me. It's not very good. But man, I'll take simple and not missing over trying too hard. I feel like the Seattle one's maybe trying too hard a little bit.
I think so. Yeah, well, I think
the Portland one's trying too hard, but at least they did pretty good with it. Yeah. It's still a little too much for me. But that's my fashion sense. Sorry, some people don't like it. It's okay. Byrne wants to know if we'll be able to attend an Atlanta United 2 preseason game. Yeah, I should be there on the 26th. That's the plan. We'll be coming back from Vidalia, where we're doing a high school game of the week on Friday night, but it's an afternoon game, so should be good to see that one. We'll talk about it a little bit. Not sure if with everything going on that first weekend of the MLS season, if I have time to drop a podcast about it, but probably more likely we'll talk about it on the Monday show. But yeah, that's the plan. That is the intention. Tom Cato, good shout. Australia and New Zealand with some of their situations with clubs and how they qualify for things. The New Zealand clubs that play in the A-League, Wellington Phoenix, they can't qualify for Champions League through Australia, and they can't qualify at all for Oceania and their club competition. So they're just on an island and can't play. That stinks.
Mm-hmm.
They should probably figure that out. Let's see. Tom agrees Portland, this is too much going on. I agree with Sam Williamson. The Hendricks kit's great for Seattle. That's one with a lot going on that it works for me.
Yes.
Yeah, Tom, I'm with you. The Revs kit's fine. It's the color combination is really good. They didn't screw it up. They didn't try to do too much. It's simple. It's fine. It's good. Domer is with you on the Red Bull F1 things, which I guess affects fashion on shirts. So you guys can hang out with your F1 conversation. I was actually just talking about the shirt. I'm not talking about the F1 side of things. Settle down, Domer. Burns says, no, John prefers the English driver, Sir Lewis Hamilton. Laughing emojis. Doesn't like Verstappen either. So Burns is with you. And now we have an F1 conversation.
And I can't root for Haas. I just can't.
I have nothing. I got nothing. I know nothing about it. Sorry. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying I have nothing to contribute to any of this.
But yeah, I just nope. Can't do Max Verstappen at all. Nope. Minus points for Red Bull because of a Max Verstappen association.
Yeah, Mile High, can you make a T-shirt out of John going, nope, nope, I don't know what that shirt looks like, but have at it, because I don't understand what any of that means. Do we get another third kit? Sam Williamson asks about Atlanta United. I don't know. I don't know the process for that. I know there was some talk that maybe Austin would get a third kit because of the amount of shirts they sold last year. I have not seen any confirmation on any of that. I don't know where Atlanta ranks in that. If they sold whatever magic number, I think it was 100,000 to get there. Shirts sold pretty well from my understanding, but I don't know if they get a different third kit. I actually really liked the Atlanta third kit last year. I liked the Unity kit. It grew on me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it looked great on the field. I thought the full kit looked great, but I don't know what the situation is with third kits. I have nothing. I got nothing.
If it, and honestly, I would buy the Hendricks kit just because of how outside the normal color scheme it was, and if something is for me, I
generally don't like things outside of the normal color scheme. I generally don't. I know second and third kits you can go there. I'm not as drawn to those if I'm a fan of the team. If I'm not a fan of the team and it's a cool shirt, then it's a different conversation. But if I'm a fan of the team, there's a higher bar, I think, when you go outside of the color scheme is where I would go with it.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And for my jersey collection, it is usually ones that are a little off the beaten track when it comes to a particular club. I mean, I have one that is, I know this will surprise you, a lower division English club that is nowhere close to their color scheme, and it's because of the sponsor and what it meant. Because if you bought this particular kit, it helped with a local cause that they were contributing to.
Where does this team from? Where are they from?
It's Bolton.
No, but I mean, what they're an English lower division team. Your favorite, right?
I'm trying to think where Bolton is now. I think Bolton's in League.
They're an English lower division team. We know that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. You like the English, right?
I do. I like lower division.
Nobody's surprised about what happened.
No.
No, nobody's surprised.
No one's surprised.
Nobody's surprised. Seattle doing a Nevermind kit would be interesting, Sam. I'd be down with that.
Great.
I'd be down with that.
Do a Nevermind Pearl Jam kit?
Those are two different things.
I know. That's what I'm saying. If they did a Nevermind and a Pearl Jam to go with the Hendricks
kit would look like. Nevermind kit would go with the Hendricks too. I have no idea what a Pearl Jam kit would look like. The Nevermind, when you do something based off the album, you do light blue.
Yep.
That could be kind of cool. That'd be easy. I don't know what the Pearl Jam one would look like. That'd be interesting if they continue down that road. We'll see. DM Tim did not like the Virginia Tech colors because now we have learned as well with the third kit for Atlanta United with the colors, because there were a lot of people who felt like DM Tim. So F1 rivalries affect how much you like a kit, and college rivalries affect how much you like a kit.
Absolutely.
Which neither one has anything to do with the team. So stop it, people. Stop it. They have nothing to do. It's like different universes. Good grief.
Hey, we're in college football, the heart of college football.
We're in college football land. Yippee skippy. I think people got over wearing red and black at Bobby Dodd Stadium pretty fast as I wear my Georgia hat this morning.
Absolutely, they did. No
so
question.
Let's stop the, it looks like Virginia Tech. I didn't even know Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech had such a big rivalry. I think DM Tim's a Virginia guy, if I remember right, which is a little more of a rivalry, but it still has nothing to do with Atlanta United's selection of colors for shirts.
Yeah, I'm sure that they were in a room. What color scheme can we come up with here? Let's do Virginia.
We have to get fuchsia and aqua because it's not anybody's color scheme that would upset anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Let's please not ever do that. No. It's funny how people get with shirts. I always laugh. I'm not quite like Dylan with yesterday, where it's like, I don't even want to talk about shirts. I don't care. Not quite like that, but I'm pretty close. I think it gets blown out of proportion sometimes.
Well, yesterday, did you see that Dylan was wearing the New York Rangers jacket?
That's another completely different conversation, John.
Well, yeah, and
now you're bringing hockey into the mix.
Well, but to that point, folks on the Twitch pitch who still love their hockey here in the Southeast were not a fan of Dylan being a fan of the New York Rangers yesterday. There are a lot of
because the Rangers beat a team that doesn't exist anymore in their only playoff run.
That is correct.
I'm sorry, if we're still holding on to that rivalry, we could probably let that one go, because they kept Phoenix around so they can play in a 2,000-seat arena next year. There's your hockey talk for the day.
That's ridiculous. HDH will be on 4:23 tomorrow morning.
Totally, something like that. Ricky wants an Equimini kit, which could be interesting for a second kit for Atlanta United. You could do some cool things with that. Trying to think, like when you say something like that, like you did with Nevermind, Sam, I always think of the album cover, which I know, like, you don't really buy albums or CDs anymore, so you're buying it digitally, so the album cover is not as important. That's where my mind goes when I think of like a shirt representing a band or an artist. The Equimini one could look cool. I know a lot of people have talked about an ATLians kind of kit, and people have had very different versions of what that would look like too. So you get into this stuff, everybody's got their own things, as we have learned. If it's a hockey reference you don't like, that's going to upset people. If it's an F1 reference you don't like, or just it reminds you of it, if it's colors of a college rival, you're going to get upset. That's why it's hard to make these shirts to where people don't have the reactions that they do. And I think you've seen this year, some teams have went simple, and that's upset people. So
yeah. This is so boring.
This is boring. And then you get, a local amateur team that does a kit to sell it because that's the revenue for the year. And it's crazy and it's awesome. And then you see it on the field and it looks weird because it doesn't look like a soccer kit. And you go back and forth with it. I think there's got to be like some continuity in things. Now, again, second kits you can get a little creative with. Third kits you can get really creative with. But the further you go away from the color scheme and the brand and what the team is, the higher the bar is for it to work, in my opinion. And we'll see. And I don't buy kits, and I know a lot of people do. It's become a big thing. I don't buy kits that I just like how the shirt looks, or it's crazy, because that also sells for some. I'm buying shirts of teams that I like for the most part. Teams that I have something to do with. I did buy the Almirante Brown shirt, goalkeeper shirt.
Yes, you did.
With the Admiral Brown on the front, and
that's
like a drawing,
awesome.
like it's from 1850 or something.
That was epic. That's
pretty cool. And I don't have any rivalries with teams that don't like Almirante Brown, so I was okay with that one. Yeah, I mean, fashion's a weird thing with these shirts. As we bring a very fashionable lad into the show right now. You walked into a kit conversation, Mike.
Boy, John is usually elite when it comes to kit conversations and, obscure kits from many different parts of the world.
Thank you. 1,000 thanks, sir. Yes.
That is
our goal.
I'm being grumpy and yelling at people who don't like color schemes based off college football teams they don't like or F1 teams they don't like, and holding it against a team that has nothing to do with those things and their kit. I'm being grumpy today, Mike.
Do you have a specific example?
Well, the two references that were cited, we were asked about the 7 kits that were released yesterday in MLS and how we felt about them. And I said I liked the Red Bulls kit. Actually, thought it looked really good. And it reminded John and Domer of the Red Bull F1 team that they don't like, so they don't like the kit.
Oh, I got it.
And the Unity kit and the Virginia Tech thing, which a lot of people got bent out of shape.
A lot of people at first did not like the Unity kit for that exact reason, especially, there's a lot of Georgia Tech fans who pull for Atlanta United. There's a lot of Clemson fans who pull for Atlanta United who didn't like the Virginia Tech color scheme, and I get it, but I think everyone kind of grew to love it, right?
No, I think some people didn't because they still didn't like the Virginia Tech thing.
Wow, that's interesting. I
actually really liked it.
I kind of, but look, I had the initial reaction too. I don't think that maroon and orange and brown is a very attractive color palette in general. But I kind of grew to love the Unity kit over time. And that's the thing. Like, I feel like anytime a big change is made, like, we're not going to call them the Cleveland Indians anymore. We're going to call them the Cleveland Guardians. We're going to call them the Washington Commanders. The instant reaction is for everyone to kind of dump on it. Because no one likes change. But, I think in the case of the Guardians, I think in the case of the Commanders, people will probably grow to love it. Same thing, look, the Tennessee Titans were not always the Tennessee Titans. They were the Tennessee Oilers. Mm-hmm. You can't change that to Titans. You're throwing away the Oilers' history. Now no one even thinks about it anymore. So I think, look.
I don't think you have a lot of oil in Tennessee.
I'm
not like Houston anyway.
I'm not positive about that. I don't know what the oil fields are like in Tennessee. But
I'll maybe guess that you have more oil in Tennessee than you have jazz in Utah.
Yeah. That's true. That one's the real shame.
Or lakes in Los Angeles.
Yeah, right.
Also fits. Yes.
Yeah. Or Cardinals in Arizona.
The Cardinal situation.
Yeah. Or Flames in Calgary.
We can burn things in Calgary.
Calgary was not burned to the ground.
That's just the current arena and ownership situation. It's not.
Right.
Yeah, we can burn things if we want, if they really need that help.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked what I saw yesterday. I love Portland's kits. I love that. I love the homage to the Rose City. I
like
really like
the
that.
homage. It's in the middle for me. It's more in the middle. I think where I kind of settle with, like, especially second kits and third kits is you can play with those more. Like, your primary has to fit your brand. It needs to be somewhat consistent, although you do still have to play with it because you got to sell them. So you got to mix them up a little bit. The secondary and the third you can definitely play with, but for me, it's a higher bar. The further you go away from the brand and what the look is, it's a higher bar for it to work.
That's true. That's a good call. Yeah, that's a really, really good call. Look, you can't please everyone. This is a very, very difficult thing because you have very diverse fan bases across all 28 MLS teams.
Oh, and people have opinions about fashion across the MLS.
Listen, I'm sure there are some people who are not thrilled to see Atlanta United's color scheme favor red and black. I'm sure there were some people who did not like that.
Dude, you got all those Auburn fans, and we have some in the Twitch pitch. Domer and his wife are both grads. The boss is an alumna. So, it took a while for them to get adjusted to that, too.
Here's what I care about. Here's what I care about as a play-by-play announcer. Do the numbers contrast with the color of the kit?
Amen.
That's all I care about.
Amen, brother.
Like the King Peach kits, which I love the concept. Oh, peach, Atlanta, wonderful. Kind of sharp looking with the orange.
Mike, Mike, got to be careful with that one because we have a fan in the Twitch pitch who didn't like it because that's a Tennessee color.
All right. Well, very well. But, again, I'm not a Tennessee fan, so I don't want to say that doesn't concern me. But,
I hate Tennessee, so I could still deal with it because it's a different shade of orange. The Tennessee orange is a whole different thing.
I mean, I have really no ill feelings towards Tennessee because every time Penn State plays them in a bowl game, Penn State beats them. So I really have no animosity towards them.
It's usually in the Outback of the Citrus, so it's a New Year's Day.
Well, you cannot spell citrus without UT. You are correct, John. But I
like where the show's headed.
But we played Tennessee in a Fiesta Bowl and beat them. We beat Heath Schuler in a Citrus Bowl. Yes, you are right. We beat them in an Outback Bowl. But anyhow, I love the whole idea of King Peach. And then I saw Atlanta United start to play in them, and I'm like, well, this is a problem because I can't see the numbers.
Amen.
And then the Kings kit was a disaster for us because that they wore those kits coinciding with 2 years of us calling games off monitors due to COVID. You literally cannot see the numbers of the Kings kit on TV. Impossible. They vanish. So, and I know some people say, well, you should know what the players look like. Well, yeah, I do for the most part. But, when Mateus Ozetu doesn't have his hair dyed, and he and Franco Ibarra or Emerson Heineman are playing at the same time, and the camera is up in the upper level, it can still be a little bit difficult to differentiate them. Mm-hmm. So all I care about is give me contrasting numbers with the kits. And, it seems like what Atlanta United is going to do with the third kit or the second kit, because they've already kind of revealed it sort of with the sweatshirts they were wearing in Athens. It looks like it's going to be very similar to what Austin rolled out yesterday. And that's good because the lettering and the numbers will contrast. And that is all I care about.
Yeah, that's the number one thing. Like, I liked the Kings kit as a shirt. I ended up liking it when I'd see it, like when I'd see people wearing it. Cool. Did not like it being a commentator because you just could not. Even if you were in the building, you couldn't always see the numbers because of the way the light would shine on the gold. It would just fade out. Absolutely. It'd be really difficult at times the further away players would get. I hope that's a little bit easier with this new one. I think it will be. Honestly, and I got to see the new ones. I haven't seen them yet. I've liked a lot of what Atlanta United has done with kits. I don't think they've beaten the first secondary kit, the concrete and strawberry.
A lot of people have very, very fond feelings about that strawberry concrete. And I think there's some nostalgia to it as well. I don't think there's much doubt about that.
A little bit.
But again, like,
that was an easy one to read the numbers.
Well, look, I'll give you an example of a kit that came out last year that initially I hated and then I grew to really like it. It was Philadelphia Union's Ben Franklin kit.
Ooh, I like that from the beginning. I know you did.
See, I did not. I thought, okay, that's too busy. It's just too much. I think it looks a little third rate. I grew to really like that. And I grew to really like the color scheme, too, because it was the same colors on the city flag in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's just a matter of you have to get the explanation and understand what's the idea behind it before passing judgment on it.
Yeah, when there's a good story behind it, it works. I don't need the branding document that is really trying to create a story where maybe there isn't one. Yeah, that Philly one's a prime example where, okay, if you don't know the story, you might not like the kit as much. You know the story, and if you kind of like the kit, it adds to it. Yes, it works really well.
Right.
It's fun. The Tennessee fan got very upset by our Tennessee slander in the chat as well. Chris Ashley's furious.
I mean, if they want to take back to like 1970 and 71 when Penn State played 2 games at Neyland Stadium for none in State College and Tennessee won both games, I mean, okay, you've got me there. You do have me there. I wasn't alive, but you do have me there.
Now everybody hates everybody. This is where we try to be with our soccer conversations that drift into other sports. We talked about CONCACAF Champions League a little bit earlier in the show, Mike. I know you were busy with the Hawks yesterday. NYC did their thing. They're going to keep Tati Castellanos, it appears. They looked very good.
Looked really good. Very impressed by them last night.
Bad team they were playing too, but they took care of business. That's a
2-0 win in a road leg in CONCACAF. That's a good result no matter who you're playing.
Yeah, it's a good result. I wouldn't go further than that. It's a good result. I think Montreal's not a bad result ultimately because they're still in this thing. They give up the really late goal. They played pretty well defensively against Santos Laguna, frustrated them consistently. Had an early goal that was wiped away due to VAR. Yeah, we can talk about VAR all day if we want to, but I think Montreal showed that they're going to be a difficult team to deal with in MLS this season.
Yeah, agreed. Again, I think it just speaks to the parity in the Eastern Conference, where I think of the 14 teams in the conference, probably 12 are going to have really legitimate playoff chances, maybe 13. So, I mean, if you're thinking of Montreal, a team that was in it on the final day last year and just kind of missed, I don't think they got worse. And they certainly didn't look like they got worse based on what they did last night.
As you've had some time to kind of reflect on what we saw Sunday, calling the two games and kind of thinking back, the results, not good, obviously, they're bad. But some of the performances were pretty good. I think there's work to do. I think there's a good bit of work to do, as I believe the team's back on the training pitch today. Who stood out to you in a positive sense in the two matches we saw on the weekend?
Oh boy. I'm still thinking.
Wasn't that bad, Mike?
It was pretty bad.
No, but there were individual performances that stood out.
I mean, I think based on the fact that he was only there for 3 days, I thought Almada was good. Yeah. Actually, Araujo, I think, really stood out. I thought Araujo was really, really good. Liked Araujo a lot. Otherwise, I think Centeno had moments. I'm trying to remember. There was something Centeno did in the first half of that Tepetite line that I really, really liked. I think he was dispossessed. He came back for the second ball and he drew a foul on the touchline. He did something like a little bit of extra work that really stood out to me that I liked. And I can visualize the play, but I can't necessarily remember where it happened. So I thought Centeno, again, I think Centeno's been really good in everything I've seen this preseason. Goodman, I thought was good as well for stretches of the match against Chivas. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. There were a few individuals. I think the point that you made during the broadcast, Jason, was spot on correct, that in a training camp environment, you're going full throttle in trainings, and you're going to leave yourself with very, very heavy legs for the scrimmages that come at the end of it. So it can be tempting to draw a lot of conclusions off of that, but it's not a conventional training situation for that. I think they're going to be in a little more of a game week type mode this week for Birmingham. So maybe we'll be able to jump to some different conclusions this Sunday. But I was disappointed. I mean, I thought they were they just completely ran out of gas in both games. And that's, again, we understand why. But it wasn't a very inspiring performance. Now, as has been pointed out elsewhere, and this is very true, Atlanta United in 2019 took a long time to get their attack kind of firing on all cylinders. And that's a team that won a friendly over Seattle, the eventual champion, 7-1 that year. So, you don't want to read too much into preseason, but I wasn't thrilled with what I saw in general on Sunday. It was not reassuring, but the good news is it doesn't count. And you can come out to Birmingham this week and play good competition. Birmingham Legion will be a good side to play on Sunday. You can go out to Birmingham and you can make a really solid and strong impression.
And tickets are $5, although the service
That's
charge,
it?
Yeah.
$5?
The ones that they're leading Atlanta United supporters for are in one of the corners of the end zone, and they're $5 each. So when you go through Ticketmaster, your service charge almost equals the price for the tickets themselves. So it's $5. honestly, it's a 3:30, 3:30 Eastern start on a Sunday afternoon.
The weather's going to be unbelievable. It's going to be like upper 60s and sunny. Well, I'm kind of wondering, guys, what the turnout's going to be.
Yeah.
Can they get 45,000 for this thing? That might be ambitious, but look, I'm going out to Alabama tomorrow. I'm going to spend the weekend out there because it's NBA All-Star break.
There you go.
I think there's going to be a lot of people coming in for the day, and I think there's going to be a lot of support for Legion as well.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of support for Birmingham Legion for sure.
Now, Jason says they aren't selling Upper Deck. So that probably cap it around 20,000. But still, I think it's going to be a great day on Sunday. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll have more detail on everything today. Stoppage time, 2:00. We good?
I hope so. I'll let you know if we aren't. I thought we were good for this, and then something came up. But no, I think we'll be good at 2:00. I put it on my calendar, so hopefully everyone will respect that.
If you got to jump, we've got the setup now. Where
we'll be fine. I'll see you guys at 2:00, and I'm really sorry about coming in late today. I apologize.
No, you threw lots of barbs at Tennessee people, so I was very happy with that. So
yeah, well, next time we see you in a bowl game, maybe things will be different.
Thanks, Mike.
And Ricky, by the way, there is an Upper Deck at Protective. There is. There's like a mid-level concourse. So I know what you're trying to say about just a single bowl, but it is divided in half, up and down.
Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm looking forward to seeing the menu. So.
All right. That's enough for architecture down here.
Yes.
I'll see you at 2:00.
See you, Mike.
Good.
All right. That'll do it for us today. We'll take questions on stoppage time about Atlanta United. It'll be very Atlanta United centric. We'll get into some of the individual performances that liked, didn't like, kind of what needs to change, what we're looking for in Birmingham, other stuff Atlanta United related. We'll get into that at 2:00. Twitch.tv/stoppage time 929. Also on Facebook.com/929 the game. It will live on Facebook afterwards. If you want to go back and watch it on Twitch, it won't be there. You got to go to Facebook. And then the audio version will likely hit your podcatchers tomorrow morning. We'll be back tomorrow morning as well with lots to talk about. We mentioned all the different games today. You got UEFA Champions League. You got CONCACAF Champions League, 3 games. No MLS teams involved. You got Copa Libertadores, second legs of the first qualifying round. You got Copa de la Liga, Barco expected to start for River. All kinds of stuff today. We'll have plenty to talk about tomorrow. Nico Moreno will join us as well. Y'all have a good rest of the day. We'll see you for stoppage time. Mucho plati, y'all.
Mucho plati.